In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up your courses for the gradebook. This is going to be one of the first things you do after you log in when you start setting up your courses. You need to set up your gradebook. So you log into Schoology, you have your home screen, looks like this. You're going to go to Courses. When you pull that down, you will see all of the courses that you'll be teaching. They will automatically be there from PowerSchool. So let's look at a test course that I've set up. Let's say you're an elementary teacher, okay, elementary test class. You click on that, and then you will see this. To set up your gradebook, over here on the left side of the page, click Gradebook, and then under that, here's Grade Setup. So you click Grade Setup, and it will look like this. Okay, now here is where you're going to set up the overall way that your course is done, the way that you average grades primarily. One of the things that you have are categories for your grades. You have things like homework, quizzes, tests, essays, whatever different categories. Again, think back to the way you did things in PowerTeacher. You did the things the same way here. You have your different categories, and you may say that you're giving homework 10% of the grade and so on. So you're going to do the same thing here. So you need to set up your categories. So up here in categories, click Add, and it'll come up with something like this, and it'll say what's the category name. So we're going to say one of our categories is homework. Now the next line here says calculated by, and then you have a choice either of total points or percent. Most teachers use percent. Okay, that's the type of thing where, okay, you have a homework and you're grading it based on 0 to 100, and you're giving it a percentage grade, whether it's a 90 or 95 or whatever. The other way to do it is by total points, and what that would do is, like if you have an assignment that's worth 10 points, and then another assignment that's worth 25 points, and you're just giving it a total number of points, and the way that category will get averaged at the end of the term is it just adds up all the total points possible and divides by the total points given. Now the difference between these two is, let's say that you have one assignment that is 10 points, that's worth 10 points, another assignment is worth 20 points. Now in the percentage basis, if you're calculating it by percentage, if a student gets 10 out of 10 on one assignment and 20 out of 20 on the other assignment, they're both worth 100, and they'll get averaged the same way. They'll be, one of them's 100, another's 100, and so on. If you do it by points, if you're calculating a category by points, the assignment that is 10 out of 10 versus the one that's 20 out of 20, the 20 out of 20 actually counts twice as much as the 10 out of 10. It's averaged that way because now all of a sudden you've got 20 points instead of 10. So the most intuitive thing that teachers do is to calculate it by percentage. Some of you do it by points, but anyway, I just want you to realize that that's the difference. And again, this is no different than it was in PowerSchool. You also have the choice here to drop the lowest certain number of grades automatically. You might say that, well, for homework, I'll automatically drop the lowest grade, and so then the gradebook will automatically do that for you, or you can leave it set at 0. So that's all you need to do there. You set up your homework, it's percentage, and now you see that it shows up here. So I'm going to set up 2 more categories. I'm going to have one that is a quiz, calculated by percentage, and create. Then I'm going to have one more, a test category. Again, I calculate that percent and create. Okay, now there are my 3 grading categories. Now, the next thing you want to do, though, is you want to weight the categories. You say that, well, a test is worth more than a quiz, that type of thing. So you're going to weight the categories. You click here where it says weight categories. Then you have this, where you can put in the different weights. And so you might say, okay, homework is 10% of the grade, Quizzes are 25% of the grade, and that leaves 35%. So that leaves 65%, so we'll say tests are 65%. Okay? And so now it will calculate the grade on that basis. Okay? So after you do that, now you've set up this class. Don't worry down here about grading periods and final weights. We'll get to that in another video, or the final grade settings. We'll get to that later. Although for your final grade settings, let's go back there. For your final grade settings, you want to say what grading scale are you using? Primarily, we're going to be using the standard grading scale. That's the one that we've set up as a school. If you're a kindergarten teacher, you might use the kindergarten scale. Rounding the period and final grades, you want to check that because we do round the grades. Okay, so you do this, you set it up, and save the changes. Okay, now this class has been set up. But now you have other classes. If you're an elementary teacher, you have reading, English, math, you have all those classes. You don't want to have to do this for every class. There's a feature here called Copy Settings. So I'm still on that same screen, my grade setup screen. Go over here to Copy Settings. Now I can copy my categories, I can copy the grading scales, I can copy the rubrics. Okay, don't worry about grading scales or rubrics at this point, but let's say you want to copy the categories. And in this case, I'm going to copy them to my other two test classes. So when I do that, click Copy. Okay. Now, if I go to one of those other classes, here's my high school test class. I go to Gradebook, Grade Setup. Notice, here are my categories again. Now, I still need to set up down here for my final grade settings to say that I'm using a standard scale and I'm rounding the grades. Okay, but you notice now all this has been set up, so you can set that up once in one class and then copy it to all of your other classes. So that's how you're going to set up your grading categories. That's one of the first things you want to do when you set up your class.